Véi, mas que jogão, velho. Se você curte o Metroidvania, cara, esse é o jogo perfeito pra você.
Né, ele é igual o Carrion.
Não.
Carrion também, todo mundo que jogou falou que é bom. Só que o Carrion é mais estranho.
Você quer que te mande o link aí? Eu já comecei a live.
Me manda aí. No YouTube, você começou?
É.
Manda aí. No YouTube pode?
O que? O jogo?
É?
Ah, vamos ver se cai do nada ou se do nada o YouTube falar, não, mano, isso aí não dá, velho.
Já avisou o YouTube. Bane você
Ué, eu
de uma vez.
diria que assim, impossível não é.
Que isso? Você tá jogando um trem muito cabuloso.
Não é cabuloso, velho. É assim, é porque é muito. Como é que explícito eu diria? Você tá na live já? Quando você tá na live, você me fala. Que eu te mostro a capa do jogo.
Entrei. Tô na live.
Ah, aí. Deixa eu abrir a janela aqui um pouco. Você tá preparado? Tá na live?
Tô na live.
Olha a capa do jogo.
Cadê? Oi. Viu? Gabriel,
Oi?
cadê?
Não apareceu a capa.
Eita, apareceu. Que bizarro.
Você já ouviu falar desses jogos?
Não. Genital Justin. Cotei. Nossa. A warning do jogo, velho.
Ah, só baixar esse volume aqui. Como é que abaixa, velho?
Ah não, mano, olha aí.
Aqui, só baixar esse volume.
Ainda bem que eu abri esse celular, não abri no videogame. Que merda. Vem, pô.
Online.
Daí balançando esse bagulho. E a minha mãe falou? E a minha mãe esquentou?
Hold up to consent.
Ih,
Ué, será que online tem gente dele? Eu controlo.
que?
Eu controlo, velho, com a setinha, velho.
Ah, quero ver de que é isso aí.
Quick Join. Any mode. Procurar qualquer um, né, velho?
É.
Ah, não tem como pôr roupa, velho. Ah, não. Sai daí. Ó, o meu é marrom.
Sério?
O meu é marrom. Who are y'all? Como é que fala? Where's return ou the gamepad button? Ai, velho. Como é que muda a roupa?
Sei não. E quanto você pegou isso aí?
Pegar agora. Ah, vai, cura o dono. Ah, ai! Caralho. Como é que sai? Ai, que bosta. O cara grita.
Quem que tá procurando meu pai? Ah, calma.
Não, 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 não. Ele vai me comer.
Aí, o que que você tem que fazer aí?
Ué, eu tenho que comer uns caras, eu acho.
Nossa, mano.
Ó! Ai, ai, deixa eu ver se tem outra sala com mais gente. Lobby. Quero jogar com mais gente, velho.
Você é o Infamous Big aí.
Por que eu fui abrir essa janela? Ué, que isso? Cadê eu? Eu tô preso. Atrás da escada.
Olha o show que você joga.
Eu tô preso, velho. Meu pau tá preso. Olha. Caralho. O cara tá só me provocando ali, balançando a pistola ali. Tá pro lobby. Join, traditional mode. Ó, você viu dar uma piscada ali, você viu? Ó, dá um ó. Ali. Tá bem. Deixa eu ver. Deixa eu voltar pro menu principal, ver como é que é o modo campanha, velho. Tem campanha esse jogo. Story mode.
Quanto você pagou nisso daí, só?
R$ 2.
Dois?
Aham.
Porcaria. Não, e o pior é que esse trem deve ter vendido pra caralho, né, velho?
Bem provável.
O pessoal é curioso.
Mas tipo, o jogo vende na
Pegar
Steam,
essa.
velho. Esses jogos assim com. Né?
Bem o quê?
Esses jogos na Steam vende, velho.
Ah, tá doido.
Ó! Ó!
Quer colocar queijo ralado em cima?
Ah, não é possível. Nossa! Você não viu isso não, né, Jogo?
Não. Pera aí, rapidão. Só.
Que
Bela.
Eu vi uma rola rodando no seu celular, Diogo.
Que?
Seu celular tá muito à vista aí?
Não, meu celular tá parado perto do videogame. Eu tô em pé na cozinha. Tá doido? Oi, o que que você coloca? E tá banido na Twitch, mano?
Tá banido no Twitch. A Twitch tem uma lista de jogos proibidos aqui, não pode streamar.
Sério?
Aham, depois você pesquisa.
Como é que você sabe disso?
Ah, mas já falar, tá ligado?
E como é que você procurou?
Ah, eu só procurei jogos banidos da Twitch. É apareceu no chão, né? No próprio site da Twitch.
Vou ver.
Já
Tem algum de play, será?
Ah, não sei. Eu acho que não. Já tá com o celular na mão, Diogo?
Não, tô indo agora pegar.
Quando você pegar essa fala, eu vou te mostrar uma habilidade aqui de tudo.
Do céu. Olha isso, mano. Quando você acha que não, é sim. É isso.
Já tá com o celular já?
Não, tô indo. Pera aí, só pegando água. Relaxa, pô. Levantei pra pegar alguma coisa pra me comer.
Ai, que jogo, mano. Não, velho, pior que ele deixa o melado, velho, por onde ele passa.
Eu vi isso aí, velho. Nojeira. Esse daí só me lembrou o Piccolo falando. Ai, que nojo. O Piccolo falando.
Aham.
Que nojo. É um negócio, acho que é do céu, né? Que ele fala.
Não lembro,
Não
velho.
me lembro, velho. Acho que. Ele, que nojo. Pera aí que eu vou pegar o celular agora, viado. Pra ver essa barbaridade.
Ah, velho, pior que você controla, tipo, as extremidades, mas você pode escolher controlar a cabeça ou a parte de trás.
Mentira, só. Que inferno. Pera aí, deixa eu pegar ele aqui.
Não, velho, eu espero. Eu abri a cor.
Peguei, me mostra. Isso daí você muda em tempo real?
Aham.
Que bizarro.
Go to the sandbox, né?
Olha aí, mano.
No one will ever love you. Caralho! Olha! Que isso? Porra, é isso? Olha!
Gabriel, essas bizarrices.
Olha, tá, olha!
John woke to the shrill cry of his alarm clock and lay.
Ah, velho, tem que pôr. Cadê? Ah, velho, marquei. Eu vou voltar pra pôr legenda, velho. Isso que é legenda. Véi, eu
Aí na cama.
quero muito ver a história.
Menu. Nem menu, não. Nem menu.
Eu vou ter que fazer o tutorial todo de novo. Vou ter que fazer o tutorial de novo.
Oi.
É porque eu não salvou, né, velho? Foi bem no comecinho ali do capítulo. Aí não salvou. Nossa, velho, o bicho todo com cu, velho.
Bizarrice.
Ah, velho, vai se fuder.
Você pagou R$2 nisso aí.
E tava em promoção, viu? Esse não é o preço do jogo, não.
Ele é mais caro?
É, acho que ele é uns R$20.
Vinte é
John
demais.
woke to the shrill cry of his
Oh, my
alarm
God, John.
clock and lay there, rigid. His usual morning condition. But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight.
Era o peso.
A weight that had nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was weighed down by a piece of paper. The invitation to his high school reunion.
Convite pra
From across the
reunião
years, the
de
words he'd
ensino
heard
médio.
in the schoolyard were still clear. You're a loser. No one will ever love you.
3 meses até a reunião. Caralho, tem uma lore, velho. Ó, eles saem todos animados da cama.
Todo mundo.
John needed to shower and wash off the sweaty stink of desperate sadness.
Tem que tomar banho. Como é que toma banho? Aperta aqui. Aí. Lavar a cabecinha, né? Mas é importante. Ah, peguei esponja.
Ainda não tá limpo não, tem que esperar a barra encher.
É, mas... Eu tenho que escovar o dente, como é que eu faço isso? Como é que escova um dente com isso, velho? Isso tem dente? Ah,
Ah não, mano. Olha isso, velho. É bizarro.
ai, mano.
Nossa,
Será que tem como desligar isso?
escovou todo.
Ai, velho.
John had 3 months until the reunion to turn his life around.
Ah,
First, he needed to clean up.
ele quer, tipo, mudar de vida pra, tipo, pagar de bonzão pros amigos dele. Tem que lavar a louça. Como é que eu lavo a louça?
John called it his study, but it was basically
Cruzeiro?
games and porn. Most
Ah, o Flamengo tá perdendo de 3-2.
Como é que eu lavo? Eita.
The only reason he'd ordered so much takeout was
Opa,
because
tá grudado.
Delilah, the delivery peen, made John feel butterflies in his testicles.
Você vai escovar os dentes, ele escova o toba. Vai se fuder.
O que eu faço? É tomar conta das sobras. O que eu faço aqui? Das sobras?
Jogar no lixo, né?
Provavelmente, mas como é que eu pego? Ai, ai, velho. Tomaram um cu. Take care of leftovers. Deve ser isso aqui também.
John suddenly realized the time. Distracted by his new drive to improve his life, he had become late. He needed to hurry, or he'd miss the bus to work.
Ele pega o ônibus pra trabalhar.
John had left his
Ah,
apartment
mano, olha
late,
aí, pô.
but
vai
if he
se
caught the
fuder.
express bus, he might make it to work on time. John didn't really like his job, but it had
Guarda
two
nos tem
qualities in its
cocô.
favor. One, he could pay his rent, and two, Barbara. Currently John's top candidate for his reunion date.
3-2 pro Botafogo.
John noticed a moderately attractive peen waiting at the stop.
Ô, velho.
He tried to start a conversation and did not get the reaction he'd hoped for. It was probably because he was a minimum wage peen. She could probably sense it.
Ah, vai atropelar.
The office hummed with cold fluorescent lighting. The air was cold and stale, lifeless. How long had John worked here? Long enough to deserve better.
Olha, meu amigo. Passa aí. Esse fala cuspir.
John was late, but
No.
felt daring. He could sneak into the office through the archives, or he could stroll through the front entrance with enough confidence to bluff his boss.
Tá, ó, escolhas no jogo, velho. Eu tô chegando atrasado, né? Eu posso entrar com confiança ou eu posso entrar de fininho. O que você acha?
Confiança.
Confiança? Caralho. Então bora. Fala, galera.
Predictably, he chose the direct route.
bicho mexendo no PC. Bateu na cabeça no teclado. Tá, deve ir pra cá.
John was nearly trampled by the morning coffee rush. Everyone else was hard at work, grinding away. John might actually get away with this.
Não, o chefe.
The boss.
vai?
He homed in on John, deluging him with spit and buzzwords. The boss ran out of synonyms for John's failings and gave him an ultimatum. Barbara would definitely not be interested in dating John if he was unemployed. He had to get to the quality assurance department. There might be a faulty dildo just waiting to cost the company millions in lawsuits. John would have to test them all.
Eu vou ter que testar isso tudo.
Every atom of John's rectum began to vibrate with the frequencies of pure pleasure. His orifice was a paradise. This vibrator would end all wars. It was good.
Vai, vou reposicionar aqui, ó.
That one was good too.
Olha aí, mano.
The Prostate Pounder X900 series, the most advanced vibrator on the market. Sweet mother of no, John, that's too much pleasure for one anus to handle.
O Jogo está vendo isso, mano.
O que é isso aí?
Nossa! Nossa, sai fumaça do negócio.
John's butt hurt, but his heart was proud. If that vibe had gotten out into the world, it could have injured a customer as badly as it had ravaged his anus.
Ah, o band-aid ali em cima.
The boss arrived and congratulated John on taking one for the team and jumping on the hand grenade, or in this case, putting it up his butt. John was having trouble following the conversation because he was quite high on suppository painkillers. And then the boss said it. Promotion. Finally, the company was recognizing John's hard work and ignoring...
Não. Vocês estão indo já?
Quê?
Ah, o Vitor vai vir também? Bonito. É, poderia melhorar. Não sou aí. Vou ficar mais um.
Teve nível.
Não, tô tranquilo. Pode ser assim. Ó, velho.
Oi.
Tive que dar um tab aqui rapidão.
Eu vi sim mesmo.
his minor faults like lack of talent, constant lateness, and
Vamos
flatulence.
comprar lá no BH, olha.
John's new office smelled like polished wood and success.
Acho que o BH lá
John's
fecha
success.
7, 8 horas. Quê? Como assim? Tem. Vamos.
Pera aí, rapidão.
Demorou.
Vamos ver. Tá, o John... Ô, velho, ó o band-aid!
Sam dropped by. He'd heard John had been hurt. John said he was fine. He wasn't a softie to
Mano,
complain about a
esse jogo
mildly
não
ruptured
vale nada,
rectum.
velho.
Besides, he had a promotion to celebrate. John had met Sam in college during a sports ball game. He'd given him some stiff competition.
Ó, o flashback, velho. Flashback. De jogar futebol. Não, vai fazer o gol.
Even when he won, Sam never acted like he was better than John. They'd started at Flesh Corp product testing together. Nothing builds a friendship like a long day of dildo mounting.
Dildo, montagem de dildo.
Yes, John had known Sam for a
Aí, de
while.
blues de frisson.
But John couldn't hang out with Sam. He had a reunion to prepare for. He was going out with Barbara tonight.
Oi, vai sair
He
com ela.
just had to ask her.
Vai, velho. Pera aí.
Everyone was quiet, listening to the presentation. A good moment for John to ask Barbara out.
Tem trabalho, velho.
Esse band-aid é zoado, viu, velho?
That's not Barbara, John.
Aí.
Barbara agreed. Well, she
Aceitou.
nodded. Sort of. Things
Ih,
were
negócio de
really
carro ali.
going John's way. John tried to act as suave as possible and listen to
Viu?
Barbara.
Ô, velho, na moral. Vou fechar essa janela.
Pode ir. Ô, Gabriel, marquei, velho. Só sair. Não, pode levar pro canal. Daqui a pouquinho eu volto aqui já, hein?
Meu.
Só aqui embaixo, BH, rapidinho.
Talk business. He didn't want to blow his chances at long-term love and short-term sex. Barbara began to talk about monthly feedback figures, and John started to zone out, imagining him and Barbara at the reunion, a power couple. She would make his classmates sick with envy, if he could get her to tone down the boring chatter. John's balls were gripped by certainty. Barbara was the perfect date for the reunion.
Coloca. Tranquilo? É só olhando a loja aqui, as promoções nas lojas. Tranquilo. Tô vendo. Ah, não. Tá aqui mesmo. Caralho. Falou, meu, com Deus. Falou. Viu?
John thought he would impress Barbara by going behind the bar and showing the bartender a thing or two. Despite Barbara's protests that it was unnecessary, John knew that a true gentleman should follow her home. He was excited. There was still 3 months until the reunion, and he'd already landed his perfect date. All he had to do was seal the deal. Barbara thanked John for the evening and politely did not invite him inside for coffee or sex, even though John had dropped some pretty obvious hints he'd be into both, or just the sex. The door slammed on John's hopes. He didn't understand. He'd laughed at all Barbara's pie chart jokes. He'd listened to her boring stories. The blank eyes of the lawn flamingos were witnesses to John's shame. John began the lonely walk home, thoughts tumbling like shoes in a dryer. He had done everything wrong. Barbara had led him on just to humiliate him. John felt empty. How could he get love? He felt like he was missing something, some key to attracting sex. but John was shooting blanks. What did Peens want? Then it hit John out of nowhere. Stuff. He had the success. He just needed to show it off. But where was John going to get all the stuff he wanted? John needed a sign. A new day, a new John. He waited outside his local buttload store for it to open, eager to spend his promotion bonus on stuff. The best way to impress women. There's nothing like a rectum full of money to make a peen feel like a man.
Caraca, mas... Como é que passa aqui, viado? Ai. Aí.
Suddenly it occurred to John that he was going to make a lot of choices. And every one of those choices would tell the world who he was. Did he want cheese or sausage?
Salsicha, né, mano? Lógico.
Delicious.
Nossa.
What would a date think when they sat in John's home? Comfort or style?
Nossa, um banco 2.500.
John went with comfort. Plus, it matched the couch he already had. John weighed up all the differences, but this was a tough choice. Something told John this was the TV for him. John chose the extremely, obviously bad. Bad TV. John realized that it was only 2 months and 29 days until the reunion. Time flies. Cactus or rose? Was John a rugged hero or a romantic poet? If John grew his own flowers, then he'd save on romantic gestures in the long run.
Aí.
There was nothing John could take with him to the grave. Except his coffin. Death is inevitable. Style is not. John liked to get his pizza delivered. That way he could see Delilah, the delivery peen. She always made him smile.
Free pineapple. Pineapple free. Nossa, tá doido? Que é do time sem abacaxi.
John knew that Delilah thought pineapple on pizza was an abomination. What bedding would Delilah prefer? John couldn't help wondering.
De adulto, né?
Regular sheets, just like the regular pizzas he regularly ordered. Devoid of any sense of style, buying new clothes would be John's toughest challenge. The silky fabric made John feel like a celebrity. John decided to go with the outfit. Music, the food of love. Should John go retro sophisticated or just retro? John's personal nostalgia was more important than sound quality. Every can was made of metal, pulled from the bones of the earth, wrestled to the surface and smelted in roaring furnaces. All so John could buy peas preserved in salty water and stick them up his butt. John's new purchases were on the way to his apartment. All he had to do was invite a date over. One look at all his stuff and they'd be overwhelmed with sexual desire. John felt proud and also hungry. It gave him an idea. He should invite Delilah over for dinner. John was excited. Delilah was on her way. He just needed to set the mood to romance. John hoped she didn't have allergies. That must be Delilah at the door. The door opened and there was Delilah. John gulped down his nerves and invited her in. John could tell that Delilah was impressed by his stuff. It was time to crank up the mood to seduction.
Puta merda.
John wanted to offer Delilah wine, but he'd already popped his cork. Delilah started looking as nervous as John felt. He assumed it was because she was shy too. They really were compatible. Of course, at the reunion, he couldn't mention Delilah was a delivery peen. That would be embarrassing. Delilah suddenly headed for the door. And just like that, John was alone again. Delilah hadn't even looked at his stuff. The rejection burned. John felt insignificant. He had everything he wanted. The job, the money, the stuff. So much stuff. He wanted to destroy all of it. Shove it into the abyss. His stuff didn't matter. He was a shaft in the machine. A lonely piston pumping away like all the others in his rigid place. Nothing special about him. Why should Delilah or Barbara or any other peen be interested in dating him? He was just like everyone else, and they could tell. John wanted to be special, but he had to face the numb truth. He wasn't. And all the money and stuff he'd ever accumulate wouldn't change that. He thought it would make him unique, but it just made him more like everyone else. He should leave it all. Get out of this little town and go on an adventure. See the world. He was a boring corporate drone, but he didn't have to be. He could be a traveler, exploring jungles and climbing mountains. He could visit the wonders of the world and get his picture taken. Like Peony Island, the unspoiled paradise he'd seen on TV. That was it. John had to travel. Bags packed, John was ready to put 5,000 miles between him and his problems. He was leaving it all behind. John was so close, he could almost smell the freedom of the skies. Security sent John back through the detector. John had forgotten he had his nail clippers with him. He'd have to buy another pair soon, or he'd look ridiculous. When the acceleration of takeoff had slackened, John felt a sweet relief. He had left his worries on the runway. He was up in the clouds, on his way to adventure. John's adventure had begun at last, and clearly it was a small world after all, and also a flat one. That was going to piss off the globeheads.
Então te amarrou. Old penises can get out of the way, sad.
John was having fun, but something told him he needed to go home. Probably his empty bank account. John was on his way back home. He was out of money, but money can't buy love. What it can buy are the experiences that had made John a more interesting and developed person, with 100 Buttstagram photos to prove it. Finally, everything was going smoothly. John felt good to be back on the familiar ground of home, but he would feel better to be on the familiar mattress of home. That's not John's bag. Not that one either. Despite John's swell of fresh optimism, traveling was exhausting, and he just really wanted to get home and get some sleep.
Não. Nossa, nossa. Ih, eu tô sonhando, tô tipo na escola. Dick Face. Dick Face. To have a locker.
Another nightmare. John's stress about getting a date for the reunion was making him think of her. Harmony. He hadn't seen her in years. Would she be at the reunion? John shook off the thought. He wasn't a child. He was a fully grown penis. John, why is the bathroom barricaded? For skin's sake, is that a swan?
Pelo
John
amor
had
de
no
Deus.
idea how it had gotten into his home or why it hated him so much.
Caralho, está me
It would
bicando.
probably be best to leave it alone.
Pelo amor do prepúcio. O bicho não gosta de mim não, velho. Ué?
John's butt started to buzz. Had he left a vibrator up there? Whatever it was, he should get it out.
Nossa, velho.
John's old phone. They really were indestructible. It was Sam calling. He wanted to check in on John.
Pô, né? Parou de jogar o joguinho lá. Uhum. Que vida. Não, mas a live fica salva daqui mais tarde eu vou ver ela. As ideias, mano. Demorou.